day, ladies, most of our ladies here, gentlemen. It's very good to have you all here. First and foremost, I need to give credit where credit is due. I was a cipher or an alumni of Enactus. I found CIPE when I was studying in New Zealand pretty much 5 years ago and represented the country to the World Cup. So Enactus is definitely a platform for youth development which I personally endorse. Now, first and foremost, I was tasked to discuss with you about getting the best out of millennial leaders, especially in a very competitive, a very aggressive, and a very dynamic workforce that we have today in our society. And today I'm just going to share with you basically 3 main points which I have personally encountered through my trainings, workshops that I conduct across 22 countries. I had the opportunity to work with organizations like the United Nations, global NGO bodies, global businesses, government organizations across 22 countries on a scholarship provided by UK private and public investors upon winning a competition in that year. So I'll be sharing with you my personal experience, but at the same time backed by research data that has been compiled locally by PricewaterhouseCoopers, studying about the trends of young people. Now this picture is a very symbolic picture to kick off my sharing session with you. It's a picture that was captured in Zimbabwe where I volunteered in a lion conservation zone. And this is what I believe. Young people, the Gen Y, are an energetic bunch. They're dynamic, some of them quite idealistic, and they can be somewhat like lions. We just need to learn how to work with them and they working with us to really unleash their potential so that they can really contribute to meeting the goals of your organizations. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 main points of what I think are some of the failures that have stopped the growth of Gen Y in your workplace for them to fully flourish as a leader, as a meaningful contributor in your organization. It starts off with the lack of mutual understanding. Pretty much like any forums that we have been to, there's always a discussion about understanding Gen Y. But I always believe there's also a discussion, should be held, of Gen Y understanding Gen X and the baby boomers. It needs to be a coexistent, it needs to be an appreciative culture where both sides needs to communicate expectations coming from both generations. And I think perhaps the weakness here is that we may not have been communicating too much with our Gen Ys. And for the Gen Ys from my generation, we may not have been that proactive or having that confidence and that stance to communicate with our leaders from the Gen X. This picture here was captured in Zurich, Switzerland, where I gave a speech in a global conference to actually get the Gen X investors to actually invest in social projects done by young people from 198 countries. Again, getting them on platforms similar like this works magic. We bridge the gap between expectations of Gen X towards Gen Y and Gen Y towards Gen X. Very powerful anecdote right there. Now moving on. As part of my business, aside from doing workshops, training geared towards youth development and the development of young executives, I've had the opportunity to work on some exciting projects. One of the projects that I was involved in was TED Talks in Malaysia. I was a volunteer manager. So no doubt I was volunteering as a manager and to manage volunteers, and most of them, as you can see from the picture, are made out of Gen Y. And I discovered something, and this assumption of mine was backed by research by PricewaterhouseCoopers and by other consulting firms, which I found across the internet and in HR conferences locally and globally. Number 1, there is a misconception that Gen Y only want gold, or i.e. money. That's not really the case. As what we have found out, working personally with the Gen Y and going through the research and the reports, Gen Ys are also very much attracted towards a fulfilling work-life balance, getting involved in an exciting project, and more importantly as well, being given the training, the mentorship, and the guidance for them to grow. In fact, in one of the research it actually showed that Gen Y would stay in your company if they could feel that you are sincere enough and you are generous enough to contribute towards their career growth. If you, as a senior manager and a director, would go down to the ground and talk more to the Gen Y, to coach them personally, so that one day they could see themselves filling your shoes when you retire, there is a very high possibility that they will stay with your company, hence enhancing their loyalty for your firm. Now, moving on. Another powerful example here was when I led a student delegation to Stanford University, which then gave us an opportunity to visit Google. Now, how is this related towards getting the best out of our Gen Y millennial leaders? Gen Ys are motivated not by micro influences in the workplace only. They are mostly motivated through macro influences around their lives. So in order to sustain, retain, and to unleash the full potential of your Gen Y workforce, you need to give them an avenue where they surround themselves with other like-minded and positive people in your firm, where they believe that they're surrounded with future leaders that are now currently being groomed in your organization. That sends them positive vibes. That would also give them a positive allure or attraction to stay with your firm and to contribute more. Also, I find we need to provide a supportive environment for our Gen Ys. Supportive environment can be defined as allowing them to share ideas, allowing them to participate in contributing solutions to a pressing problem that is faced by our organization. Of course, the argument here may be that the Gen Ys are not experienced enough, but they do not need to sit on the boards of our companies yet. Perhaps they have not earned their stripes. But one of the things that we can do is to open a platform for them to voice their ideas. And for those ideas who are accepted, we have to recognize them. We have to make an example of our other Gen Y talents that their own peers are contributing towards mapping out the direction of your company, of the achievement of your goals. So when I brought these students to Stanford University and to Google, you can see global companies like the search engine giant right here empowers their Gen Y with an opportunity to come up with new apps, new solutions that would actually help the business. Now, last but not least, again, just to close, Gen Ys, to some of you, may be an interesting bunch to tackle. I participated in a forum organized by the World Economic Forum recently when they asked the golden question, are Gen Ys out there statistics showing unemployment, or are there a bunch that is too hard to control? Which view? And my comment in that conference was, I said, Gen Y are an interesting bunch because they're born in the technological age. I think for us to create a symbiosis relation with them, we need to speak to them more. We need to allow them to speak to us back as well. I believe egos need to go out of the door. I believe status need to take a stand, need to take a hold, because at the end of the day, whatever ideas that the Gen Y share with us, it will benefit the future of our company and the achievement of the goals set by our organizations. So I'd like to welcome questions from the floor later as I could give further explanation towards my claims, and I'll be happy to answer questions. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.